camping in Northern Ontario, and this is the best place to show you guys how this light works. It's a perfect example of why this thing might work well at your tailgate. Alright, so I've had these HiLites Cyclones lying around for some time now, and I really wanted to make a light that would pretty much be something other than the stock interior lighting. I wanted it to be something that I can move around and adapt to whatever situation. I've also got this tailgate table, so I was hoping to have something built that would illuminate that at night in case I ever needed that. I was watching a video by Rubicon where Marco from Overland X came up with a cool idea for illuminating the inside window of the hardtop. The problem with that is I run the soft top for half the year, so that wouldn't work for me. I figured using those Cyclones I could come up with something similar to that. I came up with this weird flexible light. I don't know, call it the Cyclops. Now when building this thing, I had a couple of things in mind. I wanted to be able to move it around. I wanted it to be, flexible and have the ability to clamp to whatever. So this thing is wired to hook up to a cigarette adapter. Lucky for us, the back of the Jeep, we have one that maintains constant power, which means you don't need to have the key in the ignition. It's always getting power to it, so you can plug something into that and run something. So this cigarette adapter that we wired to the light actually has a switch on it, which means we can just turn it on and it will remember its last setting and turn on and be completely usable, flexible. Put it wherever you want, aim it at your cooler, aim it at the back, aim it at the ground, aim it in someone's eyes, it'll work. But check this out, we wire in this remote that allows us to control the LED, so we can turn it on or off. And we've got brightness settings. So we've got increments of 10%, 0 to 100. That's pretty cool. There's some quick settings, so we got 100, 50%, 25%. There's also these weird modes that I would probably never use. So let's run that at 50% and then go first mode. Alright, we got a seizure light. We got a slower one with a pulse. Another kind of strobe. Yeah, so there we go. We've got different strobe functions. And we can also control the speed of these. Again, I don't know if you'd ever use this, but I guess if you're hosting a rave, it could be your go-to. I think I'm just going to leave it at standard 100. That should do the trick. Alright, so I've got it attached over here at my tailgate, but I can move that around. So I can simply unclamp it. Right now it's attached to my axe here. And you can run this cable. Because we made it the length that we wanted, you can say attach it here. And what's cool about that is, because I have this tailgate table, we can now light it up when it's a bit darker up, and this is usable space. So stick around because I'm going to show you how to make one of these things right now. Okay, so these are the things that we're going to need to begin. You're going to want to get yourself a soldering iron. To solder, you're also going to need solder. Here's some soldering paste. Of course, we're going to need our HiLites Cyclone. This is a microphone gooseneck. A couple spools of wire. Some wire loom, handful of zip ties, plug for a cigarette lighter. This is a friction arm clamp. It's an LED controller and remote, 2 thread adapters for the gooseneck. You're also going to need a 1/4 inch bolt and washer. And lastly, you can use some heat shrink. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our gooseneck. This thing is roughly 19 inches. Doesn't matter what size you use, it's a totally preference thing. And we can take our 5/8 female to 1/4 inch male adapter. We're going to thread it onto the gooseneck. Just like that. We can then flip the gooseneck around and take our 5/8 male to 1/4 inch female and thread that bad boy in on the bottom. Take a flathead screwdriver and tighten that up. So what this gooseneck is actually for, and why I had it in the first place, is for a mic stand. We're going to use this thing as a flexible arm to mount our light to. And because it's for a microphone, the threads, the 5/8 threads don't work for us, so we had to go and get these adapters, which allow us to use standard 1/4 inch bolts, which will then allow us to mount our Cyclone. The other end of this thing, 1/4 inch, will easily adapt to this friction arm clamp. Cool thing about these guys is they've got threads already built in. So of course this thing's got a 1/4 inch, and we can just easily thread that through, and now we have a simple clamp to mount this light wherever we want. Alright, so next up we're going to get soldering. So I've got my KC HiLite. It's got this great connection already made. We're going to keep that in, and the other end is all ready to go for whatever connection type you want to make. I'm going to solder these things. So I'm just going to quickly twist the wire here. And we're going to make our connection. This LED controller is pretty simple to use because the wires, black and red, match them up to the KC wires, black and red, and they've also got indicators telling you which end goes to power and which end goes to the LED. So of course, this is an LED light. We're going to put it on the LED end. And I'm just going to quickly tin these wires. Also want to cut off a bit of heat shrink. I'm just going to slide it over the wire before we forget. Push it down farther enough so it doesn't melt to the wire. And we can make our connection. Again, this is red to red, black to black. Pretty straightforward. Alright, now with the connection made, we can slide over our heat shrink. So we can insulate these connections. And quickly just add some heat to them. Shrink them up. Alright, next we can grab our cigarette plug. So this is going to plug into the, either at the tailgate, I've got a plug in my Jeep for one of these guys, or, you know, at the dashboard there's one. So I really have two places where I can use this light. And this one that I found has a on-off switch, which will be a nice override for when I don't want to use the infrared controller. I just want to manually turn the light on or off. And lucky for me, this one came with quite a bit of wire. So I'm not actually going to use the spool of wire that I had, because what came with this guy will be enough. Okay, so again, we're going to make sure we're wiring this to the right side. And I mean, we can't really make a mistake at this point because we've already attached our LED. Again, we're going to cut some heat shrink. Just a couple of pieces here. Now that we made our connections, and again, put over our heat shrink. Apply some heat. Now that we've made our connection and everything's looking good, we can now disconnect our plugs here. I've got my wire loom, and I just want to clean this thing up by running this stuff into the loom. It's much easier if you bunch it together and then push the bunch down. Now we just got to trim it, and let's make sure we leave enough room for covering this wire. So we're about here, the end of the connection. So just add in about that much. Just cut it there. Now we can back it up the other way, just so we can get to our connection. There we go. Now we can reattach. Add them both together. And we can get our wire loom back over the whole thing. What I'd like to do now, just quickly add some zip ties to finish this thing off before we move on to attaching it. What I probably should have done is gotten some heat shrink that was big enough, and I could have put that on both ends. So I could have put some heat shrink here and some heat shrink here, and that would have even looked way cleaner. We'll see what my OCD does if I have to go back and fix that, but for now we're just going to use zip ties. I'm also going to add some zip ties to where the IR receiver sits. This will be a good visual indicator in case I need to point the remote directly at it, and it might actually help support it a bit, so I'm going to do that. Okay, next up we grab our little gooseneck contraption. We're going to take our Cyclone. I put a washer in that bad boy, and our 1/4 inch bolt, and we can just thread that down. We have the light attached. I would recommend getting one of our little zip ties, attaching the wire to the gooseneck. Alright guys, that's how you put it together. Pretty simple, and I encourage you to adapt it, make it your own, change out the clamp, attach it to whatever you want. Just have fun with it. I gotta thank Marco from Overland X and Trail Recon for inspiring me to make one of these. It kind of sparked the idea of putting some light together for the back of the Jeep. And lastly, I hope you guys found this information useful. Comment below, let me know if you made one of these things. Let me know how you would change this light, how you would make it yours. Either way, I hope you like this video, and please subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm going to continue to make videos like this, and I hope to take you along for the ride. From Killarney, Ontario, this is Rubicon Unlimited. See you soon.